Can comics actually teach young kids today how to read and write without losing the fun? Parents, are you worried about your young kids today because they're not reading enough, or they're struggling from school projects and they're struggling with reading and writing? If you are, stay tuned, because I've got a story to tell you about my life and how comics taught me pretty much everything. Stay tuned. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Dimitrios here from OBIPIXEL, and today from my brand obiwish.com. Let's cut down the long story into a short story quickly. I was born in South Africa. At the age of 2, my parents decided to move to Greece and carry on living there, and I grew up in the Mediterranean. From the ages of 2 all the way to the age of 12 and 13, roughly 13, I grew up in Greece, went to school, learned read, write, basically Greek and all the other subjects, and at the same time I had 2 additional languages as well, English and French. When I was a young kid though, I never liked books. I never liked reading books. I just thought they were boring. Of course, my parents were worried, and they were truly concerned because they knew one day that we would go back to Southern Africa, and they wanted me to learn English with a passion, but I wasn't very passionate about books, purely because they were just boring. I'm not saying all books are the same, hey? Anyway, and one day my parents got me into comics. They just bought me a comic, and I loved it, absolutely loved it, and I wanted more. And they got me a second one, and a third one. And I became a huge, not only comic collector, and I had eventually huge amounts of collections of comics. I had 8, 9 boxes or something like that full of comics. And first editions, which today would be very valuable. Not only did that happen, but at the same time I became a very, very good reader at school of English and a good writer of the language. And yet I wasn't in an English-speaking school. I was still in Greece. In Greece, at the time of 13, I had a project, and I went into school, and the teachers wanted us to do a project on what we loved the most, and I took my comics into school, did my project, everything was great. Then we locked everything away into the cupboards and went to go have some lunch. Of course, in schools, as we all know, there are stupid kids. Bullies, actually, are those stupid kids. Bullies that are jealous, they have an inferiority complex and a chip on their shoulder. And their parents haven't taught them very well. And of course, those kids, they destroyed my comics. They got into the classroom, broke into the cupboards, took out those comics. Some of them tore them apart, others burnt them. Some of them stole them. It wasn't just one kid. And that became a very bitter-sweet day for me. Or a sweet, bitter day, I should say. And that was the last time I touched comics when I was a young teenager. My parents realized what had happened. We tried to get all the parents from those kids to do something, but they couldn't care less. Those kids didn't really have anything anyway, so they were just reprimanded. The kids, some of them didn't go to school for 2 weeks. The headmasters couldn't do anything. So at the end of the day, I pretty much lost everything, and I never touched comics again. My parents realized how sad I was, and eventually realized we had to leave. Yes, something that traumatic can hurt a kid. And I left South Africa. My parents took me back. Sorry, we left Greece, my apologies, and we went back to South Africa. Then I grew up my teenage years in Southern Africa, but I was a very, very high intensive reader and writer. I did exceptionally well at school. Not that I studied very much. And it was all due to the fact that I had learned how to read and write and construct storylines using comics. Of course, during that period in my teens, I never went back to comics, but I did continue reading and writing. And I wrote my own stories when I was a kid. And but I never did anything with those stories. I got a few awards at school, but I never published anything. Who would think of publishing when you're a young teenager? All I was doing is running after girls. I'll never forget those days. Anyway, and at the age of 18, 19, of course I went into university and everything changed. My entire life changed. I became a cybersecurity professional. I got into the IT world and I am still in that world today. 50 years later, let's fast forward now. I am now 50, highly successful in my career as a security professional. But at the same time, I run 5 different businesses. I run a security company as an information security, digital forensics, penetration testing, all that stuff. And that's what I do for a living. But at the same time, I have a secondary career of a media creative. I'm a digital photographer and professional photographer. And I can shoot anything, all sorts of videos. You can look in my channel on Instagram at basically OBIPIXEL with an underscore. I am also a creative when it comes to design work. I can pretty much do anything really in IT. And I decided during COVID things had to change. So basically what my love for storytelling, which by the way has come from comics, as you know now, it came to fruition. And in the last 2 years, I have published 6 little kids books, as in like between the ages of 2, say roughly, all the way to say 7. And I took all the stories that I wrote as a kid and I finally published them, starting with the series of One Wish, the book 1 called One Wish, which is all about a little kid, a Christmas story, all about becoming Santa's greatest helper, and that's little Obi. Okay, that was my first story I ever wrote, hence my company name, OBIPIXEL, Obi Wish, Obi Academy, pretty much you understand now. The second kids book that I published in the storyline, Destiny's Wish, takes these characters that I have in this book with Obi and takes them to another level, introduces a number of new characters, including highlighting Sophia, which is a little elf, and what they have to go through. And of course, the third part of the trilogy, which I wrote again when I was a young kid, reading at the ages of 12, 13, I also published my third book in the series called Remembering Wish, which finalizes the story and brings the entire family together. But I'm not going to spoil the plot here. These are Christmas books, for those of you who do celebrate Christmas. And for parents who want simple, clean, wholesome stories for the young kids. These are very small, easy to read with your kids storybooks. Then I also took on board the last 3 little kids that I finished. And I've done a lot more writing than this. I've actually written about 100 stories, which I'll be publishing in the next 5 years. And I moved on to one of my favorite stories, Soul Sloths. The Soul Sloths story is a beautiful love story between one sloth that cannot speak but taps away, and that's how he communicates, and another little sloth that basically sings beautifully, and that's how she communicates. Aria and Bongo, the story of their love story. Beautiful, beautiful storyline. And all my little books have incredible illustrations. Every single one of them have great illustrations, even including my Christmas storyline. Okay? Incredible illustrations for kids. And then, then I moved on from Soul Sloths to one of my other favorites as well, which really I was inspired by Finding Nemo, actually. And, you know, from the Walt Disney Channel. And which, you know, Walt Disney today is so depressing, it's ridiculous. But I decided to build my own storyline with a beautiful octopus called Olivia, and her trek, her journey to finding her family, which is beautiful. It's a beautiful storyline, and again, once again, great illustrations for kids and very easy to read content. And I finalized that story last year, well, the set of 6 books for now, with a little storyline in space. Glitch in space. A nice little robot called Glitch, and his great little compatriots or companions, Rigget and Jin. Jin is a little girl. And what their storyline is, and their adventures through space, and how they meet up, and what happens next. All of these were the product of my growing up. All 6 of these lovely little books that I published for young kids between the ages of 2 and 7 were the direct result from me learning comics, learning how to speak and write English from comics, parents. But it doesn't end there. Last year, I decided to take on my novels that are short stories that I wrote when I was a younger, I wouldn't say teenager, but a young man, basically at the ages of 17 and 18 and 19, just before you turn 20. So my last years of my teenage years. And I was always enthralled by, when I was a young kid and reading comics, I loved, the comics of dinosaurs, and I loved the comics of dragons, and I loved any sort of lore and mystique in terms of dragons. And of course, one of my favorite storylines is, Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. And it inspired me to write my own story when I was younger, when I was just about ending my teenage years. But of course, I never did anything with those. So once again, comics and stories that I read from comics inspired me to write my short novels. Of course, I didn't do anything with those, and I never got any awards for it. But during COVID, I decided to obviously not just finish those little books for kids, but also to complete my first trilogy that I had when I was just about to become a young man. So I began with the first book, Dragons of Etheria, The Forgotten Pact. A beautiful storyline. Of course, this is for older kids, but not, what we read today. These are short novels, so only 120 odd pages per book. It's a great storyline. This is a story about James, Amy, and I can't go into more details about everything else and all the other characters in the story, but about dragons and how they go about, well, getting that dragon pact between humans and dragons, and the ancient forgotten lore and stories about dragons. That was book 1. Book 2 ended, well, I finished publishing it pretty much midway through last year, and that is Dragons of Etheria, The Awakening Bond, where now we have additional characters in the story. The dragons are more prominent in the story. James goes through some very big difficulties, but hopefully comes out at the end, which of course I'm not going to give away the ending. And of course, once again, a very nice short novel. And I've got videos on all these on my YouTube channel if you're interested. If you just look at all the other videos that I have. And they're all available on, again, obwish.com if you're going for these books. And these are books pretty much designed for the young teenagers. And I finalized this book this year, just in time for the Year of the Dragon, with Dragons of Etheria, The Eclipse of Fate. And this will be the culmination of my 18th year of writing my short novels. And I've got about 100 stories with young kids, and I've got another 20-ish. I might finish the 21st short novel story as well, which are not part of the storyline, and I will eventually publish those. So I've got a lot more to do, but I'm just refreshing all the stories. Of course, I have improved in terms of writing and reading in the last 37 years. I am 50 now. And now I have my short novels also published. So parents, what can I say? What can I say? Comics did this for me. Don't be scared of giving comics to your kids. It is one of the best educations they'll ever get. But go back and find the old prints. Don't look at the new storylines today. And I'll tell you why. And this is the reason why. At the age of 50, which was last year, 27th of October, when I turned 50 and I had finally published, or finally written and completed the final book in this little trilogy of mine, the Dragons of Etheria, I wanted to get back the love that I had when I was a kid. What brought me here in the first place, and that is comics. So I went into the industry. I went into Marvel and I went onto DC, and I looked at what they have today, and it is so heartbreaking and demoralizing in what they've done. Marvel and DC, you are absolute idiots. Not only have you cowered down to BlackRock and Vanguard for your investments, not only have you destroyed or single-handedly destroyed the film industry and the comics industry because of your inclusion nonsense and diversity nonsense, because you're enforcing it on people, which doesn't need to happen, because everyone is diverse anyway. Bunch of idiots. And knowing, coming from me, you should understand, I'm South African, I'm half Greek, half South African. I grew up in Africa. I grew up with black, white, green, blue, different types of people. After the apartheid nonsense, after the Mandela, who was one of the best presidents I have ever personally met in my life, did never, ever in his entire reign have inclusion and diversity as one of the subjects. Never, because we were united as a country. And what have you guys done, Marvel and DC, especially the leaders in this industry? You've destroyed comics. You've destroyed the film industry with your nonsense, your absolute trash. How do you expect kids to be inspired by their reading? How do you expect kids to be inspired by the storylines that you are so stupidly creating? You're baiting kids into reading stories, but you bait and switch characters around. You're turning most of your characters into opposite characters in what they are. You've destroyed your own legacies. And most importantly, you destroyed my past. Marvel and DC, what are you doing? Don't you understand that the legacy that you've created with these incredible illustrators and writers, by destroying it, you can't go back. And more importantly, kids today will never touch your books, will never touch your stories, because they are intelligent. Kids are not stupid. We never have been. We just need guidance, not forceful guidance, but constructive guidance. This is a call out to Marvel and DC, you bunch of morons. You've destroyed your past, which means you have no future. You cannot move forward in life if you don't know where you've come from. And more importantly, if you break down and disillusion and destroy your past. That means you don't love your own family. What's wrong with you? What is wrong with you? But it's okay. Let's end the video on a good note. Because you know what? That's why we have YouTube. And that's why we have channels on YouTube that are fighting the good fight. And this is why I will always back the underdogs, who are no longer underdogs. We're becoming titans in the industry. And I want to thank today a couple of YouTube channels that have brought me back to life when it comes to my reimagination, my rebuilding of my storylines, my understanding of character-driven stories, and more importantly, my love for writing and reading comics, which makes me a better author and creator. Yes, I am a security professional. Yes, I am exceptionally good in my career, but I'm also an exceptionally good creative as well. I'm not going to blow my own trumpet for no reason. I'm 50 years old. I think I earned it. So, I want to thank, on a good note. Let's end the video on a good note, because you know what? Marvel and DC, you disappoint me. And pretty much all the idiots online who've decided to destroy the industry at the same time, you're just morons. Don't you understand, Marvel and DC, that you can actually make money by creating comics and stories that are designed for your audience? But no, what are you doing? You're not only neglecting your current audience, your core audience, right, that brought you here, but you're also destroying the future of young minds. Morons, absolute morons. Anyway, I'm done with my ranting because I'm angry today. So what I'll tell you is something great. So parents, my bad, my apologies for ranting so loud. But this is what I mean by comics. Last year, I was introduced by these YouTube channels, and I want to thank you. Gary from Nerdrotic, you're amazing, dude. You're an awesome dude. And I am so glad that I know you from your videos, and I'm hoping one day to meet you. You have gone through life in a very difficult way, backwards sometimes, but you have suffered in your life. Yes, most of it done on your own accord, but you know, you've got out of it. And I am in awe and shock, and more importantly, proud of you, man. Proud of you for getting through to what you did and finally becoming a titan of YouTube. So, Gary from Nerdrotic, I thank you, brother. Thank you for introducing me to comics again and all the storylines and all the YouTubers that you work with when it comes to Friday Night Tights. And Critical Drinker. Critical Drinker. Dude, you've introduced me back into my rewriting. Like, in other words, I've taken all my stories and I've refleshed them out and I've written them. I've basically created better stories out of what I had written in the past. I don't think I could be a good author until one day I can say that I've written my last book. Whether I get published by a company or not, I honestly don't care, because there's another storyline to the publishing world. Critical Drinker, thank you for everything that you've given to the industry. And I'm so glad you're a titan in the industry. And I'm also so glad you wrote some incredible books. And I've read your books. And I can't wait to watch your film that you've just released. And one of my personal favorite YouTubers, who is my voice on the internet, because a lot of things I can't say, as from heel versus babyface, as brother, from fellow, not Englishman, but someone who also lives in the UK. Dude, you know, well done, man. Not only for your journey in terms of what you're doing to get physically healthy, but at the same time, your incredible knowledge when it comes to comics and gameplay. Dude, you've not only given me the entertainment that I needed in the last couple of years, but you've also spurred me on to actually speak my mind finally. I love the people I work with. I love my security world, and I will never jeopardize that. But I don't like the way the world is going towards this inclusion and diversity nonsense, because at the end of the day, it's segregating people, it's breaking people apart, and it's separating them. You know, power comes with unity. We're all human beings. We're all human. We're all different colors and races and cults and classes. Who cares? We should care about humanity first. We should care about looking after each other. And these guys from all these YouTube channels are incredible. They're amazing. Shadiversity. Shad from Shadiversity. Brilliant, man. Odin from OBM Reviews. Everyone I can think of. D-Day Cobra. Top class, man. For gameplay. Top class. Ryan Kennel. Says it like it is, man. Says it like it is. You guys are the bomb, man. You guys are amazing. So thank you. Hail to the 199. The Fellowship. And one more person that I got introduced to by Gary's channel. The Friday Night Tights. And another channel called, you know, Young Ripper. And the Ripperverse. And yes, I'm back to collecting comics, baby. And I have begun collecting the right way, the right comics, the stories that have good storylines, the stories that have good character-driven stories, that have passion, creativity, and more importantly, no hidden messages, no hidden agendas. So parents, you want to go back and teach your kids with comics. You want them to excel in life and get a great education. Yes, better than some schooling systems. this is what you do. Go to ripperverse.com and check these out. My first book that I've collected from Ripperverse, ISOM 1, blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. It's reignited my love for comics. What an incredible storyline, incredible graphic novel. I mean, how can you go wrong, right? With Clifford Richards and Gabe Eltaeb. How can you go wrong with that? And of course, who's behind this? Eric July. Eric July from Ripperverse. Man, you're the man. Well done, man. ISOM. Couple of days into the campaign, over 1 million. Over 1 million sales. $1 million, parents. What are Marvel and DC doing today? Absolute trash. Second one I've collected. ISOM 2. Awesome book. This one blew my mind as well. Cliff Richards again. Gabe Eltaeb. Eric July. Incredible stories, man. Incredible stories. And how do you go wrong with such illustrations? Parents, you're going to love these for your kids. Recently, I had the fortune of also getting the latest from Eric July and Ripperverse. Alpha Core. My goodness gracious me. My goodness gracious me. Not only is it good writing, but the illustrations blew me away. I mean, how do you go wrong? I used to have a whole box of Chuck Dixon and Joe Bennett, which my stupid idiot, which I thought friends at school when I was a young kid, the bullies at school, destroyed. Chuck Dixon and Joe Bennett, well done, guys. And thank you, Eric July, for bringing these guys together. Look at this incredible illustration. And the storyline behind Alpha Core. My goodness gracious me. They should make a movie out of this. There should be a movie out of this. Parents, you can't go wrong with these. You just cannot go wrong with them. Of course, for parents of young kids, maybe this may not be the right comic for your kid at the moment if they're very young. But you know, within time, at the right age, they can go through this. Gary, I want to thank you, and of course I also want to thank Eric July and his channel for also bringing in on board to his incredible talent that he has at Ripperverse, the Soska sisters, who are some of my favorite ladies on the industry, in filmmaking of horrors and comics. Soska sisters, how do you go wrong with this? One of the best comics ever put together, Black Widow. Soska girls, gosh, I hope I meet you girls one day. You're one of the reasons why I have written such dark and dramatic scenes in my Dragon of Etheria books. Because of you. And I'm blown away by your skills and talent. And more importantly, it's not about your skills and talent. I'm blown away by your attitude, and I'm absolutely loving your beautiful souls and hearts. Thank you. And of course, I'm not gonna not get this comic, because this is one of the ones that I lost. Daredevil and Born Again. I mean, how do you beat, Miller and Mazzucchelli? I mean, in all honesty, seriously, this is one of the best Daredevil stories ever written. And who's gonna go wrong with Daredevil? Seriously. So, what's the moral of the story, parents and kids? Well, you want to read good, wholesome stories, go get comics. If you don't believe you can read and write English, I grew up in a country that English was not the first language. And today, not only have I written in total over 100 books. Yes, I haven't published all of them yet, but I have 100 stories. These first 6 of the young kids and the first short 3 novels only make up 9 out of the 100 that I've written. And all because I started with comics. Not these comics, but with comics from Marvel and DC's heritage, the older sets, the older comics. So parents, go get the older books. Go get all the canon books. All the start of all the great comics and all the storylines. And you know what? Get the ISOM 1 and 2 and get the Alpha Cores. And of course, I can't wait. Eric July, I can't wait till you send out Yara, because I put my order for Yara as well. So, parents and kids, comics have made me who I am today. not only for my creative world, but they're giving me insight as to how to deal with people online, how to deal with people in the real world. And more importantly, it's made me who I am in every facet of my life. Because I have 5 careers, not 1 career. I'm a security professional. I'm a digital forensics investigator. I am a licensed penetration tester. I deliver training for companies and people to protect their systems and networks. And I've been doing that since 1989. And on top of that, I'm a professional photographer and a media creative. I have over 100,000 followers on Instagram for my media work. I run an organization that does media creation and photography. And at the same time, I'm an illustrator. I don't illustrate very well, but I can. And more importantly, I write kids' stories and children's literature now. But no, I don't just write them like I used to. I publish them now. All because I started out reading comics. So, once again, everyone, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I know that I've kept you here for very long. My bad. But I wanted to end off the video on a good note. I want to thank everybody from Friday Night Tights, Gary, from Nerdrotic, Critical Drinker, of course, as from Heel vs. Babyface, Shadowversity, and pretty much everybody in Friday Night Tights, D-Day Cobra. I want to thank you guys for bringing me back into the comics. I want to thank everyone who's brought me into this industry when it came to all the security work and all that, because I love that. That's my career, and I can do that for life, but at the same time, I can do all my creative work for me. All my creative work is for me. It's not a career. It's the love of my life. And at the same time, I want to thank Rippaverse for bringing me back to comics. Eric July, you're the man, dude. You're the man. And Chuck Dixon and Joe Bennett and everybody else that you brought into your team, and the Soska sisters. Oh my God, I can't wait till you guys bring out all the new stuff you're doing. And one day, even though I live in Wales in the UK, I can't wait to come to one of those shows that you have, to come meet all of you, because you inspire me. You brought me back to what I love the most, and I'm back with a vengeance. I'm back with a vengeance, and I'm not just going to keep on building a YouTube channel. It's all going to be about security work and all that. No. I'm going to build a channel around creative work. So thank you, everyone, and parents and kids, get back into comics reading, trust me. Comics are back. Eric July with Rippaverse has had 4 successful campaigns already. 4 campaigns within a matter of days. Each campaign made over $1 million. What does that tell you, Marvel and Diesel? Diesel. It's exactly who they are. They're basically full of diesel and they're falling apart and they're burning. Marvel and DC, what is wrong with you? Don't you understand business? Well, you obviously don't. But thank you anyway, because now you've introduced me to these guys and they're better than you. So, parents and kids, thank you. And once again, my name is Dimitrios Zacharopoulos. Yes, long name and surname. I'm from OBIPIXEL and today from obiwish.com, and I thank you for your time. Please don't forget to subscribe. I'm a young YouTuber. It helps me a lot on my channel. I'm hoping to get to the point where it gets monetized so it can help me write more, well, republish my stories and actually get those into the industry, because I'm not going to give my books to publishers. No chance. There's no way I'm going to do that. I don't trust publishers anymore. They're not relevant anymore to me. Who's relevant? Parents, kids, direct. Because they're the ones that are enjoying my books. I don't give a damn about publishers. So, thanks everyone. Signing out.